Hi, everyone. I wanted to do today's talk with someone who is so dear and beloved to me. Swami Anand Krishna agreed to talk with me on illness and death and questions I have about the benevolence of the Creator, of the Divine. Now that we see ourselves in the depths and the trenches of so much suffering and death, witnessing so much death. Just a little bit before he joins me on Swami Anand Krishna, I met him, so lucky to meet him in Bali at his ashram, the Anand ashram in Ubud, which is a small slice of paradise. It's just so stunning. A psychic had predicted that I needed to go to Java, Jakarta, and Bali. She said it in that order. You need to go to Java, Jakarta, and Bali. And in her words specifically, she said, there is a great teacher waiting there for you, or perhaps a great friend. And one thing, when I met Anand Krishna, that I heard all of the people who study with him and work with him and cite him as guru say, is that he always says, I'm not your guru, I'm your friend. And so I met him at the ashram. He was sitting outside sipping his tea, and I walked in fresh off the airplane from India. I had accidentally ended up at the ashram. I was supposed to arrive 2 days later, but I arrived 2 days earlier, and there were these devis being put in, these big murtis of the devi being like brought off the truck and put, and he's sipping his tea overseeing these beautiful goddesses entering into the ashram. And he said, oh, you came right in time. The devis are here to greet you. And I was like, I got shy, and my heart really bloomed. Later, I found he called me by the name Manika, which many people don't know. Manika is different from Monica and was the name that my grandfather, Pandit Parshuram Shastri Sharma, gave me. And he called me this during the satsang, where everyone was meeting in the evening for bhajans and a talk. And he was like, I hope it's okay that I call you Manika. And I was like, yeah, that's actually the name that my Nanaji gave me when I was born. That was just the beginning of the magic that I experienced with Guruji. I find him to be benevolent, kind, humble, and truly a truth speaker, beyond wanting anyone to lift him into God status. He's built schools, and whenever you are in his midst at the ashram, you see everyone there rapturously singing songs, weeping, dancing. In his words, he says, this is ras. This is the essence of why we are embodied, why we are alive. So that's just a little bit about him. I'll tell you more about him soon. And he's going to join me now live from Ubud. And we're going to answer some of my heart's longings. Yeah, I'm so grateful to see you, and I was thinking that I had a day when I sent the message where I started seeing patterns and wondering what Vedanta says, about illness and disease, and why, as we all find ourselves in the midst of, like, why I was thinking this, and maybe we can start here.
Yeah.
Is that why would God create so much suffering? Because the first the first thought I had was, wow, so much grace. That after the suffering, I come to these points where I've learned so much, and and I can see so much more clearly as a result of experiencing pain. And then, that right now I have cancer in my immediate family. And then I was thinking about, I want to tell people who watch this about, because I read your book, about your journey with cancer and getting to a point where you were close to death. I mean, practically at death's door. And then it just dissolving. And because I know quite a few people haven't read your book yet, and they're going to. But it's such an interesting story. So I wanted to start with that, a little bit about that, if we could.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was sick, and you know what happened as I wrote my book, and I think I told you also last time when we met. The thing is the change in the mindset, how you look at things. So I would not call it a miracle in the sense that it is not like something magical happened and no, not like that. There's a change of mindset, and if you define magic in the words of Aleister Crowley, a great magician of his time, he says whatever can change you, that's magic. So once you have a clearer picture, and then when you have this clear picture, then this persona, God as persona, as a creator, is no more there. It is everything God. So one who is suffering is also God. One who is enjoying is also God. And one who is developing soul enhancement is because of God. Soul is God. So everything.
The suffering itself is God.
Exactly. It's like a play. It's like a game when you're playing with yourself, you're solitaire, you're playing with yourself, and the winner and the loser both are you. So it's the change, the mindset. Once that change happens, then you get rid of fear. But this is something that I must also emphasize, that fear is not something that once you get rid of it and that's it, you're no longer fearful for the rest of your life. It happens again and again, like facing this pandemic. I would be lying if I say I'm not fearful also, you are taking all the precautions and everything. So fear is always there, but then at the same time, you look at the bigger picture and you know that all this suffering is giving you a chance to grow. I think that suffering makes you grow faster.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
is there a way to I've been thinking about that also. So say we choose this life. I mean, it is said that we choose this life intentionally before we're born. That the set of karmas, sure, that there, we've spoken about this quite a bit, but the difference between what is free will and what is destiny, what has been written prior to birth, and what can you shift. So if that's true, then is there a way, tapasya, seva, are these tenets of transcending the cycle of suffering? Are there very real things we can tell people to do or to focus on right now? Because when you are in the thick of, not you, but for me, one is in the thick of their illness.
Yes.
It's very difficult to remember God when someone is deeply in their suffering, difficult to not judge the pain and feel so enveloped by it. So, are there things, it is true that the stone polishes so much faster through pain and suffering. But is there a way to transcend that need to suffer in order to grow?
I think there is a way to transcend this. I don't know how to differentiate between pain and suffering. Pain is there. That is, sometimes you catch cold and all that. Those things are common, natural. But do you have to suffer? I think we can choose not to suffer. So the pain is there, everything is there, things are there, but you can choose not to suffer in the sense when you see the bigger picture again and again. I keep saying this, repeating myself. When you see others, and that's where seva comes in. Let's leave God outside of this. Let's leave God out. Look at the humanity. Many more people are suffering more than us. And then when you see all those things, then you remember, you see that, you can play some role. In spite of all the pain, all the suffering that you're going through, you still can play some role. And that makes you, immediately you're out of those, that kind of small view, and you have an expansive view. You look at things more clearly. I think this is collective. In my age, I'm 60 plus now, and even in your age, I think we have not seen this kind of situation where everybody is suffering, the whole world is suffering. We have not seen this the first time. So there should be some collective message also. If there's a collective suffering, then there should be some collective message also. What I am really concerned about is that in spite of that, not all of us are taking it that way. And if there is a message for collectivity and we don't take it as a collective message, then it may be repeated again. Because here existence is playing its role. If you don't receive this news, then it keeps on reminding you, sending.
Yeah, and that's so scary.
That is scary.
You find it in your individual life, right? The moment that you learn the lesson, the difficulty that taught you that, it dissolves. But if you don't learn the lesson, you keep attracting people who are, going to give you the same message over and over again.
True.
Yeah. And one of the things that I think about Guruji right now is that we're also being asked to continuously tap into that collective consciousness or collective message, because we may not directly be suffering because of the virus, but we need to stay home. We need to keep other people safe. We can't see it. For me, I don't know. Of course, my mother got COVID, but on a regular daily basis, I don't see the virus, and I'm operating as if it's here all time. What interesting training for me to experience, because I'm not someone who sees the unseen or responds to the unseen on a regular basis. So yes, but then when I think about what is the collective message, I don't know. Do you have any thoughts about that?
I think so. I don't want to really talk about conspiracy theory and all that, but still, I think this is, there is a human intervention in all this. And so it is not really natural altogether. It is something that we could have really, even if it was a natural thing, we could have really avoided it. If we were smart enough, we were aware enough. I'm not even talking about being conscious. Many years ago, when the globalization, when the tickets become cheaper, when the tickets became cheaper and people could travel from one end of the world to another end of the world, which we all celebrated, we all were happy. But at that time, we should have remembered that this happened during the Spanish flu. And we didn't even have aeroplanes then. We had trains. And now that, I remember that my grandfather died because of that Spanish flu. My grandfather was in Sindh. And these soldiers were coming from Europe back to their hometown. And I don't think they were Sindhi soldiers. The soldiers were from your place, from Dogra, from those communities, and Kashmiris. So they were coming, and the virus, it came to Sindh within a month, within few months. And he died, and my maternal grandmother, grandfather, both of them died. So there's a collective memory in my being, in my genes,
Yeah.
So I have this collective memory, and I think we could have avoided it. We could have really avoided it by, remember, I don't know where were you in the 1970s? You're not born, maybe, I don't know. But 1970s, when we were traveling, we would have vaccines. Before we go out anywhere, 1 week before you travel, you have to have vaccines. Until 1980s, I think. And after that, we forgot altogether. We thought we were all healthy. We had penicillin, we had the antibiotics and all that, and we were all right. Now, how much money is spent to do some research on antibiotics? Antibiotics, there's no research. There's no upgrading of antibiotics. We are supplying all kind of vitamins, supplements, which are not necessary actually, because you can control your diet and you can be all right. You don't need all those vitamins. So it's greed. It comes to greed. We have forgotten that we live in a world which is one big house. You have a different room, I have a different room, but it's a big house. If my room is burning, your room will burn also. It's just a matter of time. So these lessons of oneness, of togetherness, of shunning the greed, these are the lessons, the burning issues that we have to address now. And I'm afraid it is not being addressed, because the very first principle in economy, what I have learned in my school days, is when somebody is making profit, somebody is losing, someone else is definitely making profit. Money does not evaporate like that. So in spite of all these things, people are making profit. Some people are becoming billionaire overnight.
Yeah, well, so many people are left out of jobs. Yes.
True.
What's happening to the money that we were making?
True.
Yeah. But one thing, Guruji, I had this moment, and I'll say this even though I judge myself for even thinking this way. But I just thought, what kind of God creates a world where so many people suffer, and the level of suffering? Like, if I'm sitting here feeling bad because I haven't worked in 4 months, or, this is a wonderful thing that's happening. I'm considering, well, how many migrant workers in India have no food even right now? And then I thought, what kind of God creates a life where so many people don't have food? And I'm thinking about the migrant workers simply because they're in the country that I live in. I could expand my awareness to Africa. I could expand my awareness to refugees, to children who suffer from malnutrition because they don't even have water or rice to eat. And then you can just get so sucked into this downward spiral of like, is God just so benevolent? Am I still human and I'm deciding what is good and bad? And then like a phrase I often hear people use on me is spiritual bypassing.
Okay.
And spiritually bypassing very real issues in the world, very real things that are happening. So I want to start with that is, again, I thought of you because as someone who was in the throes of such a deadly situation in your own body, you had no control over what was happening to your own body.
Right.
And yet you found faith and magic and a miracle took place in your life. Have you ever had moments where you've wondered what kind of God like God is a human just like deciding to make everyone? And I know that, am I asking a clear question, Guruji? I'm sorry.
You are. Those things, of course, everybody asks these kind of questions at one point of time. We all have done that. But at the same time, when you go deeper into this, as I said earlier, maybe God is not part of this. God is not part of this because this is all God. There's a beautiful incident from Mahabharata when the war is over and everybody is complaining to Krishna that you could have avoided the war. You could have done that. So he tells one of the characters in Mahabharata, he said, all these warriors, they are dead. Who are dead actually? Part of me are dead. They're all parts and parcels of me. But that is okay philosophically. Let's see from the so-called material point of view. When I was growing up, I was in my teens, I was always remembering my father. He would always tell me that you must save something for the rainy days. There's an idiom, right? You save something for the rainy days. And this was kind of registered in my brain, my mind, save something for rainy days. And he was a businessman, and he said, whenever you want to invest some money, you must not invest all. Those were the days when people didn't go to bank to apply for credit to open a new startup or whatever. People had to have their own money. And then he would always say that you should not invest everything. You should at least 25 to 50%, you should not even touch it. And then when people were starting to go to banks for mortgage and all that, he would always say that don't ever put your house on a mortgage. Keep your house away from your business, Those are simple things, but we forgot. I remember in 1990s, my first books, when they started being printed by the publisher here, I was writing about the culture of buying things on installments. And I was saying that this is going to harm us. And then came the recession, the economic downfall of 1998. And then it started all over. And we have not really revived from that. People are making money. But those people who are not making money, they are not making money. There's a situation when I have a good friend in the United States, and she had bought a house for $500,000 or $600,000, and she's paying the installments. And not even halfway, 1/4 of the way, the house price went down to $250,000. And she said, look, I can just let go of this house, let the bank take over of this house, and I get myself another house. So things were happening now. And then Oprah Winfrey came on the TV, on her show, saying the same thing, that we should not use credit card, we should not use, but it was too late. It was too late. I think we have to really go back to our ancient wisdom. You spend what you can spend. You don't overspend. What I see now, with due respect, I mean, I have not met many people, but what I have seen, the people that I've met, the migrants in United States or in Canada, I've met some in Canada, they come from Asia. They come from a background normally where they don't have anything and they just want to try their luck. And once they reach United States, once they reach Europe, once they reach Canada, what they do, they overspend. They have this, as if they have not seen money. They have seen money in their own land also. They overspend. They don't save anything. They don't save anything. So where is God? I mean, God is okay, but this is our doing. We are suffering because of what we have done to ourselves.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, it's okay. Yeah.
No, you say.
No, I remember one day my master was telling me that I'm not so easily moved by pity. And we were kind of moved by pity. I mean, he said, compassion is not pity. I'm not moved by pity because I can see compassionately that you have made so many mistakes that you have learned your lesson. If you don't learn your lesson, these lessons are waiting for you. In this life or next life, whatever, the lessons you have to learn.
Yeah, because again, I was then also thinking about the class system and how confused I was learning about the class system in India. I mean, the idea of a Dalit or, whatever. I remember my dad would speak a lot about how we're Brahmins and they're Kshatriyas. And I didn't understand it growing up in the US. But then when I moved to India 13 years ago, I understood the class system as something that kept people imagining their life in the same zone, like, oh, this is my karma. This is what I was born with. And then I applied that to the world, that there's a class system in Bali. There's a class system in America, a division based on economic resource and education that one inherits from birth. So I was wondering, as I was saying, what kind of God creates all this suffering? And then I also, I answered myself, I do this sometimes, that, okay, well, we learn a lesson, and it is possible to see someone who is born, say, without many opportunities, and watch them completely, explode and rise, and um, and imagine a life that's beyond the circumstances that they were
True.
born in.
True.
I was wondering, what, from a philosophical perspective, if there are stories, from the Vedas, or if there are any stories of, I didn't know this story from the Mahabharata, so thank you for sharing that. Because it's nice, to hear a story about a God, a Lord,
True.
a divine being saying, why did you, makes me feel less crazy, because I want to be a faithful person.
I was writing somewhere, this caste system, okay, it started with some shastras, Manu Dharma Shastra and all that. And then if you read Manu Dharma Shastra, Manu Smriti, whatever, it says that all these laws are valid only for so many thousands of years. And those thousands of years have passed already. So, every age has its own laws or whatever, they are subject to amendments. Now, Shudra are my feet, okay? And the Lord says, Shudra are my feet, and my arms are Kshatriya, my heart is Vaishya, and my head is Brahmana. When you meet someone that you really regard very highly, you bow down. Do you knock his head? You bow down to his feet? So you're bowing down to the Shudra aspect. What is Shudra? Shudra is working aspect. When you respect somebody, you don't respect for his intelligence. You respect because he's applying his intelligence. I would not bow down to somebody who is just talking about philosophy. But if he's applying, now application comes, that is a part of Shudra. The working class. The working class. And if you see the Shastras, you see all those seers and sages who receive these revelation, revelation, yeah? Shruti, they heard these verses of Vedas. Most of them were Kshatriyas. They were not even Brahmanas. All the avatars, they belong to the Kshatriyas class. And one Brahmana was there, Prashuram. He became Kshatriya because he got so angry with the Kshatriyas. They were not doing their job properly, and he took up arms and he started killing all the Kshatriyas. So many times he killed everybody. This is just a story, but the thing is that there is no such rule or there's no such story that only Brahmanas can receive the Vedas. And we have been taught that Vedas can only be read by Brahmanas. It is not supported by the facts. And if you read the Puranas, they go a bit farther, that Ganika was a prostitute. I'm writing a book actually about that. I'm writing a chapter of a book on this, and that's in English. Ganika was a prostitute, and somebody can learn from this. And then when my mother was telling me the story in her own language, that when Ganika got enlightened, so her place, she was living in the red light district. Her place, her house, her mansion, she was a courtesan, no? Courtesan, is it? So she had a beautiful mansion. She turned that into temple. And people said, Ganika, why don't you move out of this place? Go out of this red light district. She says, no. Who will serve all my friends here? Beautiful. If I go out from here, who will serve them? So we have such beautiful examples of seva. Seva in the truest sense, not about distributing a loaf of bread or something, but what you need. I was always reminded that every society has its own need. In India, you carry, maybe not now, but in my days, when I spent 5-6 years in India, you carry a basket of loaf of breads, and then you can distribute on the street.
Mhm.
Maybe until now it's like that, but
Still happens.
not,
Yeah.
yeah. In Indonesia, you don't have to do that. You have to find other wants, other needs, what the society is in need of. So
Mm.
right now, we were doing this meditation for the cancer patients,
Mhm.
and we had to stop for about 3 months because of this pandemic. And now they came up. We offered them that we can give you off online. They didn't want it, but now they approached me and they said, "Okay, we can do it online. Fine." And what is the main what do you call need? What is the major need? It's not the meditation per se. What they need is songs. They
Mm.
want to sing with us, and they miss those songs. So I was telling our team that you please focus on the songs. Meditation is okay, but focus on the songs.
Mm. Yeah, this idea of what role is required for
Mhm.
when,
Mhm.
and that we're all born in this massive story.
Yeah,
You gave me this book, the mystery
mystery
of
of creator and creation.
creation. I
Mhm.
can't wait, for these books to be available, easily available to
Uh-huh.
purchase in India, especially for
Mhm.
it really helped me. But the way that the story was written, and again, I always go back to this idea of divine irony, that everything's like a parable, everything's ironic,
Yeah,
and that in one place you play one role, and then in another place and at a different time the role
true.
changes, and you just have to keep moving like water into
Mm.
all of these moments. But I do get stuck when I judge suffering as bad. And then I thought about, Ram Dass's documentary and
Mhm.
you
Yeah.
two, and then I wondered, is this just a thing that happens on the way to enlightenment? And what is enlightenment exactly, Because it seems like this large concept that if one sits in meditation, just like a good student day in and day out, some magical thing will happen and you'll transcend the cycle of
Mhm.
suffering and of dual thinking of pain and pleasure, and then I wondered, what does enlightenment feel like? Do you just feel like, do you see something different? Are you, I mean, and thank you so much, Guruji, for allowing me to ask these questions. I know that they must seem so childish and
No, no, no. It's an important question. To me, enlightenment means that suffering, you suffer all the more. The more enlightened you are, the more you suffer. So are we ready to suffer? Right now, we suffer for our own self. We suffer because our family is sick and our friends are sick. We suffer because our country is not in good shape. But when you start, you're on the path of enlightenment, which I feel it's not a full stop. It's a process that goes on and on. Then you start thinking about the collectivity of the entire world. And then can you imagine the suffering of the truly enlightened beings?
Mhm.
Everything is his problem. Our
Mhm.
problems are limited. And here is an enlightened being who thinks everything is his problem, and he wants he is a very nosy character. Enlightened being can be very nosy. I have a
That's
different
hard.
definition.
That literally started sending pain into my arms, because and that again, it's in line with, I feel, you speak sometimes about what it means to take a quantum leap,
Hmm.
you know so we've been in one pattern of living. We have understood economy in this way,
Yeah.
our relationship with God
Hmm.
in one this way. You could say that, if you want to relate it to a computer,
Hmm.
humanity has one operating system for a
Right.
long time, and
Hmm.
it's as if we're being asked to update. And you said this so beautifully, that, well, what if we don't update? Then we're
Hmm.
gonna we're gonna stay in this cycle for
Hmm.
much longer than
Hmm.
we need
Hmm.
if we don't update.
Hmm.
So what is the updation, and does it mean, and I feel it, I can see very real examples of this taking place, where even though I'm not earning money,
Mm-hmm.
this is a really simple example, but even though
Yeah.
I'm not earning money right now, I'm still paying everyone who has less than me, who I
True.
employ.
True.
So you can't call it suffering because I'm not
Mm-hmm.
suffering, but I'm giving more than I'm used to in the
Yeah.
cycle of receiving, of input, output.
Yeah.
I'm giving more than I'm receiving,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm asking for other people to do the same for me, and
Mm-hmm.
they're not.
Mm-hmm.
So I wonder if, okay, the quantum leap,
Mm-hmm.
you've already said this, to move from individual awareness
Mm.
to collective awareness.
Yeah.
You know? Enlightenment is a journey
Yeah.
from moving from the individual into the
Yeah.
expansive, all
Mm-hmm.
encompassing. Does that feel joyful, even though it includes more suffering? How does that feel? Can one track a
Mm-hmm.
sensation in their being that feels like, when people speak of samadhi or they
Mm-hmm.
speak of rapturous communion with love,
Mm-hmm.
with divine love, it always sounds so sweet, like this epic
Mm-hmm.
love story.
Mm-hmm.
Then when you say, well, enlightenment actually can mean opening yourself up to
Mm.
far more suffering
Yeah.
than
Mm.
than you're used to. Again, this is the irony,
Mm-hmm.
right? I've yet to be in your ashram and not feel elation and joy and that sweet divine love that's written about in the books. But then you also see people crying. So how can we move through this dancing? And are there stories, since you know so
Yeah.
much about
Mm-hmm.
Mahabharata, and,
Mm-hmm.
you know, all of the stories, wherever in the
Mm.
Bhagavad-Gita, or all the Ganika, you said your
Ganika,
name?
yeah.
Yeah. What is the philosophy behind this ironic experience of union with God that then opens you up to this tremendous suffering of all of humanity? How do you dance through that?
I
How
think it's for want of a better word. It's not at that point there should be another word, not suffering. But
Mm,
because there's no such word in our language, so in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says that there's a state of udasin. And udasin is now when we say udas in Hindi nowadays, especially the ghazal players, when they say udas is, you're sad, बहुत उदास लगता है, means you're so sad, but the Sanskrit word udas is beyond this material suffering, pain, and joy. It is something else. It is something else. The pain is there, the suffering is there, the joys are there, the pleasures are there, but you are above that. So you can look, it's just like looking from up. You can look down, okay, these things are happening. How can I fix? Can you imagine you're trying to make a jigsaw puzzle and you have so many pieces
mm,
and you have to look from upright where to put which piece. So it's a different kind of suffering. It's a different kind of joy as well.
Udasyan.
Udasin.
Krishna called someone an
Yeah,
Udasyan?
Krishna says, he explains to Arjuna that this is the state that is reached by those who have surrendered and who is into bhakti and all those things. He is in that state.
Which is a longing that's beyond, or a suffering that's beyond worldly suffering.
Beyond worldly suffering, there is a Viraha Geet. Viraha is, what is the English word? Come on. Viraha is when you're separated from your beloved. And that Viraha is also, uh, one step towards bhakti, so even Viraha, being separated from your lover, that is also one type of bhakti, one form of bhakti.
Mm.
I think Rumi was in that bhakti. See, Rumi, I was very much interested in Rumi until I found something which I thought, now this is not Rumi, okay? But
Mm.
But Rumi is, without being judgmental, he was in love with Shams. And Shams was a great character. If you read Diwani Shams, that's a very good book also. But he was in love and he suffered. So his Masnavi is actually longing for Shams.
Yeah, I think about that quite a lot.
Yeah.
And not many people talk about.
Not many people. His son, I think, his son, he got him killed. He got Shams killed because he was so concerned that my father is spending all his time with Shams and people are saying he's homosexual and this and that. And so he got him killed.
And this is what I mean by then when I look at the story through the lens of the human being, I'm like, where's the compassion in that? What kind of God would allow for the son to kill, to kill the lover who inspired such beautiful work? And then
there would be no Masnavi. There would be no Rumi. You would not be remembering Rumi. I would not be remembering Rumi. So Shams had to die. That's God. So let's leave God out of this.
Yeah.
He sees the big picture. Okay, this man has got a potential to influence, to have an impact upon millions and millions of people. And Shams has to move out of the stage. So he is very unceremoniously moved out of the stage, like Sushant Singh was.
Yeah.
But remember now, with Sushant Singh gone, I mean, we were all sad. I was not a great fan of his, but I was sad, because I kind of knew what was happening. But after he's gone now, there's so much awareness in the industry.
Yeah.
Look at this.
Yeah. God bless him.
God bless him, yeah, of course, yeah.
I feel I was also very sad and impacted. I agree. I think back to the philosophy of all of us playing roles in this much bigger picture than we are aware of. Sushant was, he's, in the community that I'm in, and I didn't know him personally, but I know a lot of people who were very close to him, and it is beautiful to see how activated people are around this conversation of nepotism and just an unfair industry that also was quite classist in its own way, as if the Bollywood has its own Brahmana Kshatriya divisions, a system that keeps those at the bottom really at the bottom, those at the top profiting in accordance to everyone else's loss. So that is that. But what about the concept of suicide? Because mental health is really on the rise right now, and there are so many conversations. I've experienced 3 people in my immediate community who have committed suicide during the pandemic. Is it written about in any of what does ancient Vedic wisdom say about suicide? And because I don't know anything actually. Has it been addressed?
Yes, it has been addressed in the Puranas. Puranas are legends. I'm not calling it mythology because nowadays mythology is being misunderstood, but they are myths, they are legends. They are sometimes they are fictionalized, Those events may have happened, but they are put in a story form. Now, I feel that the soul, the individual soul, when I'm talking about individual soul, that's your mind, emotions, and all that together, we have to learn certain lessons. And then we abruptly put an end to this body. Without this vehicle, we cannot learn those lessons. We cannot reach our destination. So what happens is we have to come back and learn the lesson. But if the thing was about coming back alone, it would have been still okay, But the soul that has a lifespan, he has already decided, okay, I'll be in this body for 70 years, 60 years. And then abruptly, I end my life at the age of 30. So for those 30 remaining years, you're hovering around. That's why I keep telling our people those days to watch this movie by Bruce Willis, I think The Sixth Sense. Have you seen that movie?
Yeah.
So this boy, he does not know that he has got that potential, and Bruce Willis, he does not know that he's dead. And those things can really happen. A person who is dead without awareness, he or she can be hovering around without knowing that they are dead, and especially when they are buried, so the attachment with the body is still there. What we call now the silver cord, it's not severed yet. I don't call it severe cord, but there is an attachment with the body. There's a pranic attachment, and this prana is not cut. A lot of people, I don't know if I have mentioned this to you, when somebody digs a grave, you can still see people growing their nails. People who are dead, the nails still grow, the hair still grow. So there's prana left in this body. And that's why the ancient Hindus, so to say, they kind of manipulated this situation. Okay, how to cut this prana? Burn the body, cremate the body. By cremating the body, immediately the pranic thing is cut. And then the soul realizes, okay, I have no way to go back to this body. Let me move on.
I never knew that.
This is yeah. This is actually this one. A lot of people who have got psychic abilities, they can. That's why they can communicate with this. Now, a lot of people on YouTube also, they feel they can communicate with Sushant. That is not right, because once you start communicating, he'll be very much attached to this world again. He will not move on.
Interesting. I'd never thought about things this way. Yeah, I just thought, oh, well, Christians bury and Hindus burn. I didn't really know why.
It is about the connection with the body that is not severed.
Right. Huh. So then what about communication with higher souls like Mary Magdalene or Christ or Buddha, or people say that Babaji has been roaming in the Himalayas for 3,000 years. What about higher beings like that?
They have not stayed around. This is what I was trying to say in the last chapter of Soul Quest, that these are the fragments of their mind. When we die, our mind is still solid, and that's how we are reborn. This solid mind is taking up another body, enters another womb. But these higher beings, when they die, it's not just the body that is shed, but the mind is also shed. But the mind is energy. The mind has particles. It is one form of matter. We call it subtle matter, Shukshma Sharira. Very, very subtle matter. So this is disintegrated. And these particles are becoming the most precious garbage in our system. So you can communicate with that particle, and you can feel, oh, you're communicating with Buddha. But actually, it is just a particle of the mind.
What was the word that you used? Sukshma
Sharira. Sukshma is subtle body. Sharir is body. Sukshma Sharira.
So beautiful. Yeah, because I feel one of the things that's predicted for the quantum leap of humanity, or I don't know if this is anywhere, but the Mayan calendar, and there's a lot of talk around leaving this phase of Kali Yuga and entering into the new Yuga in the next 300 years. Is that correct?
I don't think so, because nobody has really predicted about this pandemic also.
No.
When the pandemic is happening, then everybody thinks that he has been predicting, but nobody really predicted. When I was saying about this 2 years ago, that the years of Shiva started and we'll see a lot of changes, it never occurred to me that there'll be something like this, when the whole world will be impacted, I was thinking of many things, but it was not this pandemic in particular. So, of course, then when you want to justify what you have said, I can always find out reasons. So I was hinting at that, I was hinting at this, But no, nobody knows. So there is something in this existence. There is this mystery. And let this mystery be mysterious, because otherwise you don't enjoy this game. You know everything.
Yeah. But when you said there were many things that you were thinking would happen
Mhm.
about the years of Shiva, what were you thinking would happen?
I was seeing a lot of deaths, yes, but I did not really see this pandemic would be the cause. I was seeing a lot of deaths. I was seeing a lot of changes in the whole system.
And
I
why
was
specific?
sorry.
Sorry.
No, you said something.
Does that relate to Shiva? Because he's the destroyer.
I call it recycler. I call him recycler, because you see there's a beautiful paradox there, that Shiva is the lord of destruction. He's called Mahakal, the greatest, the time factor. Yeah, Kal is also time. Kal is also death. But at the same time, his icon, his symbol is Linga and Yoni.
Mm-hmm.
That's creativity. That's new beginnings.
Yes.
So I call him recycler. So, he's the recycler, and I see a lot of changes. I see a lot of changes politically. I see a lot of changes, a lot of things. But I did not particularly see this pandemic. So, yes, those things are happening now. And in the years to come, I can feel that there'll be a lot of political changes. They are
Yeah.
already happening,
Yes.
which may or may not be good for us.
Mm-hmm. There's a certain kind of madness in the air,
Yes.
like some of the things that Trump says are just completely mad. People who suffer from mental health issues are going mad. Kanye West in the last 48 hours has gone mad. There's a strange sort of madness.
Did I mention to you in 1980s there was a study done by 17 or 19 universities all over the Western world? Did I mention this to you? No?
No.
And that study was financed partially by the International Herald Tribune. And they started with, because of the Scandinavian country. In those years, Scandinavian countries were the most prosperous countries. United States was number 27, I still remember it. And these 5 countries of Scandinavian countries, they were on the top 5,
Okay.
And the rate of suicides among the teenagers was the highest there.
Yeah.
So they got alarmed and they did a study. And that study was also published by Straits Times in Singapore. I was in Singapore attending some conference. And I was interviewed by the paper there. I said, what do you think about Asia? And Asia was not so much affected, I said, well, it will take about 10 years, but we'll have the same problem in Asia. It took only 5 years. Within 5 years, we had the same problem. So mental health has been an issue right from those years. And this is just, picking up. It's going to the peak. It's the climax point, but it has been there and we did not address it adequately. I'm happy to tell you that for the first time ever, the Ministry of Health here has suggested that for pandemic, for mental health, you can do meditation and yoga. It's a big thing. It's a big thing. And the one who made this announcement also, she was on the show with Archana on Instagram, So there is a good, what do you call, improvement, or what do you call, in the change of mindset, that meditation is not something like mumbo jumbo. It's not that you have to do this. There's no other way. There's no other way to take care of this. I think in the days of Buddha, because if you see Buddha 2,500 years ago, India was called Sonegi Chiria in the Greek. I forgot the exact Greek words, but it's a golden bird, India was an affluent society. 2,500 years ago, India was like the West in 1980s, 70s. Everybody is happy, everybody is this American dream, all those things. And then people were suffering, and that's why people became bhikshus. The total population of India, the greater India, not only India, but the surrounding areas, was just 10 to 15 million those days. And can you imagine 5 million people became bhikshus? 1/3.
Sorry, Guruji, what is a bhikshu?
Bhikshu is the monk. They followed Buddha, they became monk.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
5
and
million.
yeah, 1/3 of the population. So
I
you
did
see
not.
Buddha statue everywhere, from India to from Sri Lanka to Afghanistan. You see
So
Buddha
interesting.
statue everywhere.
Yeah, I didn't know that 5 million people though.
5
But
million
like
people.
full asceticism monks, like monks who
Monks who left
walk
everything.
ascetic,
Yes.
left everything.
Not to speak about his lay devotees, there were much more than that. But you see, all this thing, it did not serve the purpose. What happened was India became weaker and weaker after that.
I
So they are
see.
going from one extreme to another extreme. Okay, you're stressed, you become a monk, leave everything, And then, of course, Buddha was already predicting, and that he kept on saying that you have to find your equilibrium, samadhi, the middle way.
Right.
But we didn't understand him, and so we left everything. And Buddha was not very keen also. He was very selective. You had to go to him time and again and request him to give you initiation, to initiate you into monkhood. And he would keep you waiting for sometime for days, months, years. But still, so many people became monks.
I had no idea.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. Yeah. But that's such an interesting pattern to see about humans, is this
Sure.
extremism, which then makes me think also about judging something as good or bad. That the person who lives with the fancy car in the mansion, in the fancy house with designer clothes, will kind of like laugh a little bit at wearing cotton robes and sitting in prayer all day long.
True.
But I've begun to see this trend in the West where, yoga becomes this fad, and you see all these monks traveling abroad and gaining the Beatles, getting interested in Vedanta. There's been this slow trickle that's starting to build small bridges between the two sides of living in the world and living the world of living the life of a monk. That there's something in between. But then I also wonder about the principle of vairagya and why there's so much discussion around, maybe just in my experience because of the work that I do also, but around all of the steps towards enlightenment, and vairagya being dispassion, and how asceticism also can mean abstinence, like abstaining from interacting with form, with sattvic food is, a strict, disciplined diet. It's not oil and ghee and, that's tamasic or rajasic food, rich food. So why create this world full of all these like epic things and sensual beings, and everything's so tantalizing and, can grip you and make you feel attached, right? Because it causes pleasure. But then say that in order to remember God, you have to abstain from all of it.
Not abstain, there's a beautiful verse in Bhagavad-Gita. I'm not very good at my memory about the verses, but there's a beautiful word, and I'm getting old. That says Krishna is telling Arjuna. Krishna is telling Arjuna, what is there in restraint? Why do you want to restrain something, It's a very, very powerful one line. I have just, I'm actually now writing my commentary on Bhagavad-Gita, a very short one, but in English. This time is in English. So you can read.
Book number 190?
Sorry?
Is it book number 190?
Something like that. Something like that. So this, because Bhagavad-Gita I wrote in Indonesian was 1008 pages, and then there's another version that is 300 pages, but now this is in English, about 200 pages, 150, 200 pages. So I'm just in that chapter about Vairagya. And I was studying from different translation of Bhagavad-Gita. I've got about 70, 80 year translations. And, it's from the root word rag. Rag is like, it's attraction. So you use the word dispassion, right? Now, dispassion is maybe not the correct, but this has been used as a translation of vairagya. But the root word is rag. Rag is like. So when you say rag, the other word is always there with it, dvesha. So attraction, and what is the opposite word of attraction? I think repulsion. Is there a word repulsion? Yeah. So attraction and repulsion. When you say rag, there is always dvesha. And that reminds me also of a very ancient saying: when you are rich and you have Lakshmi in your house, Lakshmi is the goddess of wealth, right? Her sibling, and her name is Alakshmi, misfortune, is waiting at the doorstep. She's just waiting for her sister to come out and she'll enter. So these all these things they come in pairs. They don't come alone. So when you say vairagya, you are going beyond this raga and dvesha. And if you see Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is telling Arjuna, practice brahmacharya. And we immediately translate to celibacy. What celibacy? Krishna was married to so many women. Arjuna was married to at least 2 or 3 women. They were kings, and those time it was the norm, What kind of celibacy? Krishna's sister was married to Arjuna.
Draupadi had multiple husbands. Why? Because of...
She had longing in her past life. She was old spinster. Nobody would marry her because of something. And then she keep on praying to Lord Shiva that I must have a husband. So Shiva appears and he said, what do you want? I want a husband. I want a husband. I want to have this husband. So she repeated 5 times. And Shiva said, Tathastu. Okay, you repeat it 5 times, you'll have 5 husbands.
So again, it's like the big picture, because she had this past life momentum.
Right. So vairagya, coming back to... Sorry?
Is she the only woman with multiple husbands? Were there others?
There are indication that some other were also having, but it is not really clear. Anusuya, for instance, but this is very interesting that Sati Anusuya, and then there is another lady, Ahilya. Ahilya was cursed. She slept with Indra and she was cursed by her husband. So she became a stone, and then Rama, he made her alive again. Now there are 5, I think there are 5 ladies, 5 women who are considered the ideal women. And all these ideal women had more than one wife or some affairs. But this is trying to tell us that good and bad are relative. So we have respected anybody and everybody because of their deeds, not because of their janma, because they are born in a certain family or something. This passion also, this vairagya, is also not about leaving everything and becoming a monk. That was the whole message of Bhagavad-Gita. Arjuna wanted to do that in the first chapter. And Krishna has to explain to him 17 chapters not to do that. So there has to be some other meaning. So I was just playing around with some translations and I found this beautiful word, detached engagement. You are still engaged, but there in your mind you're detached. And detached to what? Detached to the result. You do your best. You do whatever you can do. Do your best. Don't leave it to God. Don't leave it to fate or destiny. Do your best, but then you leave the result to existence, to God, whatever.
And so you said that rag means attraction.
Yeah. Actually, the exact translation would be like and dislike. Rag and dvesh. Dvesh is dislike.
Okay. And then vairag would mean?
Without rag, going beyond rag.
Okay. And ya? Vairagya.
Vairagya, that's I think is the the Sanskrit grammarian would be able to tell us, but basically the root word of vairag is rag.
It's so interesting how Sanskrit is written in this way. It's like just a million. I think about this every day, Guruji, is how you explain what ras means. Because day in and day out, in the monotony of living, and I mean, even though I've traveled quite a bit, of living in this pandemic where we can't travel, we can't work, not much is happening, I think about ras and how to just extract, this is how I understand, extract the juiciness out of the simplest thing, to see magnificence in this desk, to feel wondrous about this chair I'm sitting on. And then also to remember that it's all gonna go, and how that can make me happy, sad all the time. That it's like, I'm happy and I'm also very sad. And I'm both at the same time. You know?
You're enlightened. You're enlightened. You're on the path of enlightenment.
Well, I thank you for blessing me with that. Thank you. I wanted to talk about death and illness, and you know, I speak to my friends now. Most of us have parents who are entering into their 70s or in their mid 70s and dealing with health issues. And if there's something that I think we forget to consider or to meditate upon, is that we are all going to die, and everyone that we love is going to die.
True.
And I can feel immediately in my emotional system, I'm so afraid to lose the people that I love. And I think it's heightened in the quarantine for me. And it's heightened because COVID affects the elderly more than it affects the younger people. And I have not experienced a culture, an Indian culture, that speaks upon death. You know, I've read the Tibetan Book of the Dying. You know, I know that in Latin cultures they have El Día de los Muertos, the Day of the Dead. But in my home, we didn't talk about it. There was no romance with death. It was just, don't think about it, don't talk about it. And here we are, so confronted with millions of people. In the US, there were 70,000 new cases in one day. So, and India, COVID is on the rise as well. So in the scriptures, or in any of the many millions of things that you know, Guruji, can you leave me with something about death, and I don't know, a story or something that comes to mind when you think of this romance with death, a way to think about it?
Not for you specifically, but I think I would like to leave this note for everybody who's going to hear this, because something has gone wrong with our education system. You know, it's like, you know, we are being educated without given any manual, anything, you know, what you have to do with your life. We are just prepared for making money, and that's all, you know, and to live our life, but to live how? To live how? And this reminds me again of my parents. I must have done some very good karmas. This song, I'm writing a book, this is called, I have already written actually. It's being edited now. It's called Romancing Sindh. Remembering my mother, who was illiterate, who could speak few languages, but she could not write. She could only sign her name in her Sindhi language. And then she would wake me up every morning with a song in Sindhi that reminds me of death. That you remember death, that you have to go a long way, and you wake up now because death is around the corner. And then one day, and I wrote about this, one day one lady came to our house and she stayed with us. And she told my mother, Shami, her name was Shami, Shami, you're crazy or what? This boy is 3, 4, 5 years old and You're singing this kind of song early morning.
What's the song?
The song is it's Sindhi. It's Sindhi. The one of the verses is Hita halya vya hazare mu akhe budita. I've seen with my own eyes. Thousands have gone from here. Whether they are poor, they're rich, they have gone, and they go they move towards Yama, the god of death. Hita halya vya hazare mu akhe budita. Jite jam je jut jiti bahe bare uti jag banda. Wake up. Otherwise, you'll be moving towards Yama, there was the god of death with tears, and you'll be creating hellfire for yourself. You'll be so attached to the body that you'll be creating hellfire for yourself. That is hell. So get up early, and Tuta aga jo samar khari tyar kare. You wake up and you prepare yourself for the journey. This was the song that I grew with.
So you got good training.
I got good training, but it does not mean that I do not fear death. I was, I was at least 2 times in my lifetime that I could really see death right in front of me. One is that, the other one is I will not publish the book yet. I'm now upon posthumously maybe. When I was jailed, that was another experience. Very, very, So yes, I think the whole thing is about education system. And now what we can do, what you can do, what we all can do is to make this narrative popular, that death is not the end of life. Births and deaths, births and death plural, they are just like the waves, rising and settling down, and the life goes on. Life is eternal. This meeting is not something that has happened only in this period of time. It may have happened several times before. Krishna was very clear with Arjuna. You don't remember it, I remember it. That's the only difference. You don't remember it, we have met before, and we are continuing our journey, and it goes on and on and on. And if we think that after moksha we are just lost, no, we are also still there in the form of those fragments. So that reminds me of Raj Kapoor. Jeena yahan, marna yahan. Have you heard that song? From Mera Naam Joker. That is my favorite movie.
Is it?
Yeah, Mera Naam Joker. Have you seen that?
I visit it.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite movies. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We'll continue some other time.
Yes, I imagine I'll have more questions.
Sure. Anytime.
But I guess to wrap all of this up,
Yeah.
I wanted to speak specifically on life and not life, sorry. I wanted to speak on death and illness. And then we ended up speaking so much about life and change. And I think that there's something really beautiful about that. That where one is, the other one is also. You said that these things always happen in twos.
True.
And that's something I think about a lot. So thank you for that message. And yeah, may we all just remember to feel the ras in every experience. Something that you've taught me, and you've given me so much joy.
Thank you.
And just love. And
Thank you. God bless you.